A culture's teachings, and most importantly the nature of its people, achieve definition in conflict. They find themselves or find themselves lacking.
Since the release of my video on the philosophy of Kreia, several people have mentioned in the comment sections that the Grey Jedi are superior to the Jedi and Sith. I forgot to talk about them, and by doing so, it might have been seen as glorifying the Grey Jedi indirectly. Some have even expressed the idea that a balance between the light and the dark could be achieved as a way of ending the perpetual wars between the Jedi and the Sith. While seeking an alternative between the Jedi and Sith touches on one aspect of Kreia's philosophy, the concept of the Grey Jedi and balance holds many misconceptions that people have of the Force. This might seem like a general misunderstanding, but it is an issue that strikes at the core of Star Wars. In the style of Flash Gordon, which Lucas wanted to adapt but could not get the rights, Star Wars is episodic. We are brought directly in the middle of an overarching story without being told the history of neither the setting nor the relationship between factions. Take the original Star Wars movie. What do we know of the Rebels? What do we know of the Empire? What did they stand for? It's never made clear. The audience is never given context to the inner workings of the galaxy, but by being episodic, stretching over large periods of time, subsequent materials by other mediums, from books to comics and games, were used to fill out the gap and flesh out Star Wars. The prequel movies further expanded the backstory leading to the original movies, describing the fall of the Jedi, the rise of the Sith, and the Republic becoming an empire. But no matter how much of the lore is expanded upon, we are never given insight to the inner structure of Star Wars. None of the characters openly theorize about the structures of their own setting. This disconnect allows for fans of Star Wars to interpret the movies by themselves. However, despite nothing being spelled out to the audience, there are some noticeable thematic patterns. The original Star Wars movie lays the foundation of the duality that would become its bedrock. After the opening crawl, the iconic shot of a small rebel ship fleeing the large reach of an Imperial ship immediately displays the struggle of the underdog fighting the dominant power. We are never told what are the goals of either side, but the audience can infer that both are seeking dominance over the galaxy. By its first fight scene, Imperial troops are shown to be in uniform, hiding their face and humanity, while the rebels show fear. This portrays the Empire as being inhuman and the rebels as humane. The opening scene of Vader, dressed in black, meeting Princess Leia, dressed in white, reinforces this duality that will become important later. From these moments, using cultural signifiers, the dichotomy of Star Wars being a story about good versus evil is formed. The most present is that of technology versus nature. The Empire is shown to put its faith on technology and sneer at the mystical concept of the Force.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fortress.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
By the end of the movie, during the run to destroy the Death Star, Obi-Wan tells Luke to not rely on technology.
Use the Force, Luke. Let go. Luke, trust me.
His computer not. Luke, you switched off your targeting computer. What's wrong?
Nothing. I'm all right.
While it might seem that a duality between technology and nature is a weak foundation, it is in fact the basis of the dichotomy between the Sith and the Jedi and is found in all human culture. Nietzsche observed two opposed forces in a constant struggle. He identified it as the Apollonian-Dionysian dichotomy. It is the fundamental conflict in all human existence. The concept of Apollo, the Greek god of light, knowledge, art, ruling over the realm of the self-conscious, relates the idea of individuality. The concept of Dionysus, the Greek god of wine, ecstasy, and madness, ruling over the realm of the subconscious, relates the idea of losing the self into a collective. The essence of the duality is this. Apollo represents human civilization, striving to overcome nature, and Dionysus represents the unknown elements of nature, striving to undermine humanity's illusion of control. Everything relating to art reflects and tries to resolve this human dilemma of order versus energy, and equally, it is representative of the Sith and the Jedi. Pure selfishness by using the Force for one's gain, and pure selflessness by being in tune with the Force. The struggle between the Jedi and Sith, despite being small in number compared to the rest of the people in the Star Wars galaxy, is the focus of the entire franchise. In the final battle of Return of the Jedi, there are three main conflicts. On Endor, with Han and Leia trying to destroy the shield generator, in space, with Lando and the Rebels fighting the Empire, and on the Death Star, with Luke fighting Vader. The battle on Endor influences the outcome in space, but interestingly, the fight between Luke and Vader does not influence anything, yet it is the main thematic drive. Realistically, it should not be of any importance, as it is the Rebels that destroyed the Death Star, but spiritually, the fight between Luke not falling to the dark side and Vader regaining his humanity is the main thematic core. It is as though the outside events do not matter, because they really do not matter. The Empire, the Republic, other alien races, they are all irrelevant backdrops. The central conflict between the Jedi and Sith is the only thing that matters. This is echoed in The Phantom Menace with Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon fighting Darth Maul, while the Gungan army fights the droid army, Padme sneaks in to capture the Viceroys, and Anakin spins in space. All these battles determine the outcome of the invasion, but the duel between the Jedi and Sith is still the main thematic core and is disconnected from the rest. This is further reinforced in Revenge of the Sith, with the entirety of the Clone Wars being a manufactured war by Palpatine to destroy the Jedi after converting Anakin to the dark side. This is beautifully shown with Yoda and Sidious fighting in the middle of the Senate for the fate of the galaxy. However, you might have noticed a contradiction. If the Sith are Apollonian and are meant to represent order and stability, why did they constantly destroy themselves? The answer can be found in the other unique element of Star Wars, the Force.
The Force? The Force is what gives the Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together.
When Lucas wrote Star Wars, he wanted to introduce the concept of God and noted that it could be reduced from a single karmatic concept, an unknowable entity that manipulates causality.
You don't believe in the Force, do you?
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field controls my destiny.
The Force has a will that gives everyone a destiny, and by that definition, could be considered a god, yet no one refers or worships it as such.
The Force is with me, and I am with the Force. And I fear nothing, for all is as the Force wills it.
To be strong in the Force is similar to having provenance from God. Compared to other mythologies, what is unique with the Force is that it does not speak directly with anyone. There is no flaming bush or physical manifestation of the Force. By their own volition, everyone must accept their destiny but interpret the consequences. Even Anakin, the literal embodiment of Jesus in Star Wars, must make his own choices. There are two ways the Force can be used as a magical power: by suppressing the ego and emotions to be in tune with the Force and using it as an ally, or by enforcing the ego and emotions to draw out the Force and using it as a tool. The manner in which the Jedi and Sith use the Force is the key to this puzzle. Being Apollonian, the Sith are individualist, meant to be rigid and emotionless, like a rock. But by drawing power from the Force for selfish gains, they become Dionysian, mad with power, emotional. Similarly, being Dionysian, the Jedi are collectivist, meant to be fluid and emotional, like a river. But by suppressing their ego to be in tune with the Force, they become rigid and unable to change. The Jedi and Sith flip sides, becoming hollow to obtain power. This reversal is echoed in how the Jedi and Sith dichotomy was formed. I mentioned this observation in my Kreia video.
The Jedi Civil War is not the first one of its kind. Thousands of years ago, the Jedi had another civil war that split the Order. It was a terrible thing. A faction among the Jedi abandoned the teachings of the Order, following their own path. They waged war on their fellow Jedi, a war that raged across the galaxy. But these fallen Jedi were cast out, defeated, and they retreated to worlds in the Outer Rim. Over time, they took on the mantle of the Lords of the Sith, but in their hearts they never forgot the Jedi. The hatred for the Jedi Order burns in their veins like fire and echoes in their teachings.
In our world, according to Nietzsche, all higher civilization arose from those that imposed their will, desired power, and preyed on the weak. This is what is known as master morality. Then, those who were oppressed by those with power created their own system of morality in opposition to power and saw themselves as superior by not desiring power. This is what is known as slave morality. In dialectic terms, master morality can be considered the original thesis on morality, and slave morality was formed as a reaction, forming an antithesis. What is unique to the Star Wars universe is that slave morality was the original thesis with the Jedi, and master morality with the Sith was formed as a reaction, becoming the antithesis. In the first Knights of the Old Republic game, the ghost of the old Sith Lord Ajunta Paul echoes this origin.
We were the first to rebel, to betray, to surrender ourselves to the dark side. So strong, we thought. So wrong. Our Jedi Masters, those who had taught us to use the Force, who warned us against the dark side, yet we embraced it in secret, reveled in its power. We were discovered, or did we act? I can no longer remember, but here is where we came to hide, to grow, and here we fell.
This split is the result of a civil war known as the 100 Year of Darkness. Some might argue that it came from the expanded universe lore, but it was referenced in the comic Star Wars Showdown on Smuggler's Moon, making it canon. This reversal of master-slave morality depicts the master morality of the Sith as evil and the slave morality of the Jedi as good, but only because there is no alternative due to the existence of the Force. Either you teach the ways of the Jedi of becoming selfless, or they become agents of evil that bring ruin to the galaxy. This is why the Jedi take children that are Force sensitive at a young age from their parents to teach them the ways of the Jedi of only being selfless. It is done to make sure the Jedi never enact their emotions or form connections with others. The only connections Jedi form is with their masters and fellow Jedi. This is why, during Order 66, as all the Jedi in the galaxy were being killed, Yoda could feel their death because he trained them. Similarly, an outburst of emotions can be seen by Obi-Wan in The Phantom Menace when his master died.
Let the hate flow through you.
If anyone were allowed to form connections with others, it would lead people to be greedy and fear losing them. When someone acts selfish, darker emotions such as fear, anger, hatred, passion, aggression, it all becomes an addiction, like a drug, amplified by the Force. They begin to walk the dark side path, desiring more power until they completely lose their humanity. Because of this, the Jedi created a system where all conflict must be avoided and suppressing emotions is an absolute to make sure no one ever falls to the dark side. This creates a system of extremes by necessity. Although this explanation of the reversal of the Apollonian Dionysian may seem unique, over the years, the feeling that both the Jedi and Sith are nihilistic has been felt subconsciously by many, even if they could not express why. What people are revolting against is this endless cycle of destruction, caused by both sides being hollow extremes, hiding behind the romanticism of good winning over evil. Rogue One shows this truth in its purest form, with everyone continuously dying. Some argue that good and evil does not exist, but the truth is that both the Jedi and Sith extremes are inhuman, and thus an alternative is preferable. Because of this, many people desire a middle ground, something gray that would not completely fall to the dark side but without suppressing emotions. Something human. This brings us to the concept of the Grey Jedi.
I've seen my share of the dark and the light, and frankly both extremes annoy me.
It's kind of nice to meet a Jedi who isn't all hung up on this light side, dark side stuff. Gets pretty tiring, you know?
The term originated to describe the actions of Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace. Although the audience had never seen how the Jedi operated before the original trilogy, Qui-Gon's actions seemed weird. He would act aloof, use mind tricks to get what he wanted, and leave everything to random chance. What set him apart from the rest of the Jedi was this mentioned by Obi-Wan.
Do not defy the Council, Master, not again.
I shall do what I must, Obi-Wan.
If you would just follow the code, you would be on the Council. They will not go along with you this time.
You still have much to learn, my young apprentice.
In the second Knights of the Old Republic game, there is a Grey Jedi robe with a description of the Grey Jedi. It reads, "The Grey Jedi are those who, though having completed the teachings of the Jedi, operate independently and outside the Jedi Council. They are typically seen as misguided, though they have not necessarily succumbed to the dark side." It's an adequate description. However, the true underlying meaning of a Grey Jedi is that they are humane Jedi that have not become entirely Zen, yet have not also fallen to the temptations of the dark side by enacting their passions. So, if the Grey Jedi are a better alternative to the typical Jedi-Sith extremes, should it not be further promoted? The answer is that because of the corrupting nature of the Force and the inherent selfishness of humanity, it is a worse alternative. What categorizes a Grey Jedi more than simply disagreeing with the Jedi Council is that they still maintain connections beyond those in the Jedi Order. But by being more humane and having connections, it makes a person more susceptible to fall to the dark side. This is echoed many times in the Star Wars canon. Kyle Katarn, a prominent Grey Jedi, nearly fell to the dark side after his girlfriend was murdered and sought revenge. And in Return of the Jedi, Vader used the knowledge of Luke's connection with his sister to draw him out to the dark side.
Give yourself to the dark side. It is the only way you can save your friends. Yes, your thoughts betray you. Your feelings for them are strong, especially for sister. If you will not turn to the dark side, then perhaps she will.
In my Kreia video, I mentioned that in the expanded universe, Luke had created a new Jedi Order that was similar but new. I imply that by doing so, Luke had stopped the dark side and the Sith from returning, but that is not entirely the case. Due to the small amount of Jedi left in the galaxy, Luke readily trained any Force sensitive that he could find and trained them in the ways of the Jedi. However, Luke did not train younglings, he trained adults. By already having connections with their parents or other people throughout their life, the type of Jedi Luke trained were Grey Jedi. Within a few years after Return of the Jedi, many fell to the dark side, and within a few generations, the Sith returned and the Jedi Order was destroyed during the Third Jedi Purge. The cycle never ended. The same thing happened in the new Disney movie canon.
Ever since Luke disappeared, people have been looking for him.
Why did he leave?
He was training a new generation of Jedi. One boy, an apprentice, turned against him and destroyed it all. Luke felt responsible. He just walked away from everything.
Yet despite these repeated failures, people still demand for the Grey Jedi to become canon as a way to save the galaxy. A noted example that many bring up is the character Bendu from the TV show Star Wars Rebels.
You're a Force wielder. But you're not a Jedi.
Wielder? Jedi and Sith wield the Ashlar and Bogan, the light and the dark. I'm the one in the middle, the Bendu.
But there is a problem. There is no such thing as the light side of the Force. The light side is simply a shorthand for enlightenment, becoming Zen, losing your ego to be in tune with the Force. As previously mentioned, the Jedi and Sith represent the Apollonian-Dionysian dichotomy, which is similar to the popular concept of the yin-yang. However, this form of duality does not work in Star Wars because of the existence of the Force. The Star Wars universe is heavily inspired by Manichaean philosophy, specifically the Manichaean view of evil. According to this view, good and evil are opposite forces in the world, and good must triumph by opposing evil in order to eradicate it. In the Star Wars universe, the Force always makes the good side win by destroying those that use the dark side of the Force and returning everything to the status quo. This is known as bringing balance to the Force. However, the concept of balance has been largely misunderstood by the Star Wars audience for two reasons. Firstly, the word itself brings about confusion. When you think of balance, you imagine equilibrium or equality. Secondly, people have been confused as to what the prophecy was meant to entail, as it was never revealed directly in the movies.
I've encountered a divergence in the Force.
A virgins, you say?
Located around a person?
A boy.
You refer to the prophecy of the one who will bring balance to the Force. You believe it's this boy?
Remember, Obi-Wan, if the prophecy is true, your apprentice is the only one who can bring the Force back into balance.
Some have misinterpreted the concept of balance by looking at the outcome of Revenge of the Sith rather than the entirety of the Star Wars movies. After Order 66, only 2 Jedi remained, Obi-Wan and Yoda, and only 2 Sith remained, Vader and Sidious. But no, the numbers on both sides is irrelevant. Obi-Wan clearly explains what balance was meant to happen.
With all due respect, Master, is he not the chosen one? Is he not to destroy the Sith and bring balance to the Force?
So the prophecy says.
You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them! Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness!
Destroying the Jedi and joining the Sith did not invalidate or change the prophecy, and by the end of Return of the Jedi, Anakin fulfilled the prophecy by destroying the Sith and bringing balance to the Force. This is shown thematically as well, with the Ewoks representing nature, destroying the Empire, representing technology. Lucas even confirms this in the Revenge of the Sith commentary.
The thing that she says at the very end is, I know they're still good at him, and that Luke says later on in Return of the Jedi is, they're still good at you. It's sort of a recurring, because there is. That's the one thing that will bring balance back to the Force, is there's just a little ounce of good in him, and it's his son that makes him realize that he made the wrong decision, and that it's, the time for the rationalization is over, and he needs to do the right thing, which is to get rid of the Sith and bring balance to the Force.
This misunderstanding of balance can even be found by those that contribute to the lore of Star Wars. One such example is from the CG TV show Clone Wars, with the Mortis arc.
Mystery on Mortis! Sent to discover the origin of a mysterious distress call, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and his Padawan Ahsoka Tano are stranded on a distant planet. There they discover 3 beings more powerful with the Force than any Jedi have seen before. The father keeps a fragile balance between his daughter, who allies with the light side, and the son, who drifts ever closer to the dark.
The arc is fueled by a general misconception of both the Force and of balance. The father believes Anakin to be the chosen one and to bring balance to the Force.
It is only here that I can control them. A family in balance, the light and the dark. Day with night. Destruction replaced by creation. Too much dark or light would be the undoing of life as you understand it. Where news reached me that the Chosen One had been found, I needed to see for myself.
However, he believes that balancing means to control his children, metaphorically balancing the light and the dark side of the Force.
It has been foretold. The Chosen One will remain to keep my children in balance.
Contrary to the popular view that the daughter and son represent the yin-yang, this depiction is slightly inaccurate. What is interesting is that traditionally, the negative dark one, the yin, represents the feminine, and the positive light, the yang, represents the masculine. The colors associated to the genders of the son and the daughter are reversed. Intentional or not, it echoes the switch of the Apollonian Dionysian in the Star Wars universe. But of course, the son and the daughter are not actual manifestations of the light and the dark side. They are simply Force wielders. So it can be brushed off that the father misunderstood what bringing balance to the Force actually meant.
My nature is to do what is selfless, but my brothers will always be to do what is selfish.
And this misconception of a duality of the Force and the possibility of a balance between the two of them may be spilling in the Last Jedi movie.
What do you say? Light. Darkness. A balance.
Whether Luke advocates that balance is a coexistence between the light and the dark, or retains the traditional view that good will triumph over evil, remains to be seen. There are rumors that Luke will detail the origins of the Jedi. This is concerning because there are two possible origins. The traditional one, with the Jedi being the original thesis on morality in Star Wars, created after the invention of hyperspace technology was discovered, and the one from the comic Dawn of the Jedi. It is very worrisome because the comic tries to change the structure of Star Wars by showing a proto-Jedi order called the Jedi that existed thousands of years before the discovery of hyperspace technology. The comic itself is very bad, but is remembered specifically because it advocates for balance between the light and the dark. The Jedi were officially retconned, destroying themselves before the discovery of hyperspace technology and the birth of the Jedi Order. It should be remembered that there is no third way of using the Force. So if balance is incorrect, as there is only the Force and the dark side of the Force, what does the Bendu mean when it says to be in the middle?
I am the one in the middle. I take no side. I am unseen, unknowable, like a rock in the river.
Kreia provides the answer.
So you will do nothing? Apathy is death, worse than death, because at least a rotting corpse feeds the beasts and insects.
The middle is not a third source of power from the Force, but apathy. And that is the ultimate failure of the Grey Jedi. Some eventually come to understand the problems of the Jedi and Sith, see the extremes, like the audience, but refuse to do anything to stop the perpetual wars. They are cowards.
Look, I tried to live that way once. Told myself the galaxy would go on with or without me. But when I saw innocents harmed and knew I had the power to do something about it, I couldn't just watch it all burn down around me. Some things are worth fighting for. You'd rather hide, like a coward.
I will not be called a coward by the likes of you, Kanan Jarrus.
This applies equally with Jolee Bindo. He saw the problems of the Jedi, saw their blindness, and what did he do? Nothing. He ran away, like a coward.
I had trained Neyama against their wishes. I had failed to kill her when I had the chance, and she went on to kill others. Not to mention that I had remained a Padawan throughout the war. A formality, perhaps, but with the trial, it had to be decided if I was worthy to become a Jedi at all. It was a travesty, of course. I told you that even the Jedi were capable of great injustices, didn't I? They found me innocent, even though I deserved every punishment and more. They let me go. Mitigating circumstances, they said. I deserved compassion, they said. They said I had learned wisdom the hard way. For all I had done during the war, they wished to raise me to full Jedi status at long last. That was when the Jedi left me. That was when they failed me. I got so sick of the treachery and deceit, I left the civilized parts of the galaxy and headed instead for the uncivilized parts.
The Grey Jedi have their fun, maintain connections with others, but when push comes to shove and they see that the Jedi are inhuman and unwilling to change, they exile themselves and blind themselves to all of life.
I did not speak fully of what I have felt. Staying on Nar Shaddaa, it is an exile of sorts, one that I have chosen. I, too, lost a Padawan on Malachor, not to the battle, but to the alternative, to the teachings that Revan brought from the unknown regions. And I was not the only Jedi Master to watch a student turn on them. Perhaps the Council, perhaps the Order itself, had grown arrogant in their teachings. It is easy to cast blame, but it is perhaps time the Order accepted responsibility for their teachings and their arrogance, and come to recognize that perhaps we are flawed. Not once did I hear one of the Council claim responsibility for Revan, for Exar Kun, for Ulic, for Malak, or for you. Yet, you were the only one who came back from the wars to face our judgment. And rather than attempting to understand why you did what you did, we punished you instead. Our one chance to see where we had gone wrong, and we cast it aside. And now, that decision has come back to us and may carry with it our destruction. Perhaps there is something wrong in us, in our teachings, and though I tried, I could not cause that thought to leave me, so I left the Council. And I was not the only one. That is why many scattered, and why many in the Republic do not trust us, and why we do not trust ourselves. Make no mistake, I am no Jedi. This is the end, you see. After this, there will be nothing, and I think it will be for the best.
In the second Knights of the Old Republic game, each Jedi Master represents an abstract criticism of the Jedi Order.
How could you ever hope to know the threat you face when you have never walked in the dark places of the galaxy, faced war and death on such a scale? If you had traveled far enough, rather than waiting for the echo to reach you, perhaps you would have seen it for what it was.
Vrook represents the arrogance and foresight of the Jedi Masters, always knowing what's best, but is blind to the effects it has on the galaxy and those living in it.
Did you not hear its call on Dantooine, Vrook, on its scarred surface and in the minds of the settlers?
Kavar represents the fighting spirit of the Jedi Order, naive and always ready for a good fight, but is blind to what such teachings accomplish in wartime.
And you, Kavar, so close to the call of Daxan, tell me, did you not feel what poured from the moon, what had taken place there?
And Zes-Kai-El, the Grey Jedi that saw the failures of the Jedi, was ready to leave the Jedi Order, but was unwilling to give up his connection to the Force to live a normal life.
And Zes-Kai-El, to hide upon Nar Shaddaa, yet blind yourself to all that happens there. So close to understanding the Force. So close to giving it up.
This is the criticism that Kreia had of Force wielders in the Star Wars universe. They are unable and unwilling to let go of power. It is the source of the perpetual wars between the Jedi and Sith, causing millions of deaths every generation.
As you would pass judgment on him, I have come to pass judgment on you all. Do you wish to feel the teachings born of the Mandalorian Wars, of all tragedies that scream across the galaxy? Let me show you, you who have forever seen the galaxy through the Force. See it through the eyes of the exile.
This is what makes Kreia unique compared to all the Grey Jedi in existence. She is equally a Grey Jedi, but sought the contrast to understand the Force and stop the endless cycle of war between the Jedi and Sith. And so, with the knowledge of the Force corrupting anyone that uses it selfishly, what can be done to save the Star Wars galaxy? Ultimately, even Kreia did not find many solutions. If you ask the Handmaiden, she proposes a naive solution.
The Jedi relics are kept by Atris. Most come from Dantooine, brought here before the academy there was destroyed by Malak. What I wonder is if the Jedi teachings should not simply be stored, but brought to others. There is much in their approach to battle that is worthy to be shared.
The Jedi and Sith hoard their knowledge, so perhaps if their teachings were freely given, it might provide a solution. Unfortunately, allowing anyone to learn how to use the Force by themselves without the teachings of the Jedi to suppress the ego and being trained at a young age would only give rise to unofficial Grey Jedi that would use the Force selfishly, turning people to the dark side, bringing destruction. The teachings of the Jedi, flawed and inhuman as they may be, exist to make sure Force sensitives do not fall to the dark side. So what about teaching the next generation to become Grey Jedi to be more humane without falling to the dark side? This is how Kreia taught Revan as a Padawan. Unfortunately, this is not a good solution. As I pointed out in my Kreia video with Atris, the type of Jedi created would be strong in the Force but leaning Sith. And as shown with Luke in both the expanded universe and in the sequels, teaching adults how to use the Force will still lead some to fall to the dark side. As a Sith, Kreia sought out more drastic measures by making it impossible to be in tune with the Force. If no one could use the Force, then the galaxy would be saved. But such a plan would require the death of perhaps the entire galaxy. It's impossible to get rid of the Force from Star Wars. And only after being betrayed by Nihilus and Sion that cared more about power did Kreia find a solution. Attract all Force sensitive on Malachor 5 as a beacon and have them remain on the planet to live their life after destroying the Jedi and Sith. It would remove all Force sensitive from the galaxy and end the wars. These are essentially the only choices left in Star Wars if you command the Force. You follow the Jedi way and lose all attachments and then become Zen. You follow the Sith way by embracing the dark side and acting your ego until you lose your humanity. You follow the Grey Jedi way, try to do good, live your life, until you eventually enact your passions, trying to protect something you care about and fall to the dark side. You follow the Grey Jedi way as a coward, see the extremes of the Jedi and Sith, and decide to live in exile, away from all of civilization for the rest of your life, living as a rock. There exist no other alternatives. But regardless of these thought experiments, what makes the structure of Star Wars great is the perpetual war between the Jedi and Sith, with one side always winning by design. There are no solutions unless you change the foundation of Star Wars or misunderstand the concept of balance. And no one should want that because the Jedi, the Sith, and the Force, they are what makes Star Wars interesting, and the Grey Jedi are but a dead-end wish fulfillment to destroy the nihilistic cycle of death. But in our world, one where there is no Force that controls everything, balance of the self between the Apollonian and Dionysian is possible with effort. Just not in Star Wars, not with the Force. It is a doomed galaxy, far, far away.
The Republic was never what was important, ever. It was but a shell that surrounds the Jedi, just as the teachings of the Jedi are a shell surrounding the heart of man. You see, the war, the true war, has never been one waged by droids or warships or soldiers. They are but crude matter, obstacles against which we test ourselves. The true war is waged in the hearts of all living things, against our own natures, light or dark. That is what shapes and binds this galaxy, not these creations of man.